In this episode, I get a chance to interview my good buddy, Jen Conger. Jen is a good friend of mine. We've actually been coaching under James Wedmore in his Business by Design program for the last 2 years, and we've become very close. She's helped me to discover some things about myself from a spiritual level, helping me to see that I was missing some things with using my intuition. And she is the source of intuition. She knows all about it. She's studied it. She's, channeled certain things. She has her light team always working with her. And a couple years ago, actually about a year and a half ago, she finally started opening up to the public about her gifts. And it took a lot of courage. It took a lot of leaving her comfort zone. And it took a lot of trusting that when she opens her heart, the right message will reach the right people. And her business has skyrocketed since then. She's nearly, doubled or tripled, I believe she said, her revenue in the last couple of years. And there's so many good things happening with Jen. So I'm excited to bring you on this journey. And I share some things about myself and my spiritual journey that I've never shared before. And I don't know if I ever will share again. Not that I'm trying to hide anything, but it's just something that we went a little deep. We went down the rabbit hole just a little bit, had some fun with some woo-woo conversations. So if you're ready to get woo-woo, if you're ready to look at things from a new lens, then stay tuned. I'm Adam Kiddoo, and it's time to master the art of real heart alignment, where you live, work, and play from your personal power as energy aligns, your gifts flow, and life simply works. These life-changing conversations are designed to help you to see what you're not seeing, hear what you're not hearing, and to be who you're not being, as the world needs more heart-centered leaders now more than ever. Are you ready to say no to living a half-hearted life and say yes instead to boldly living from a place of real heart alignment? Welcome to the Adam Kiddoo podcast. And without further introduction, I bring you Jen Conger. What's going on, Jen?
Hello. So good to be here.
Absolutely. How are we today? How are we feeling? You excited for this?
Pumped up. Yes. We have so many magical stories to share. I'm very excited about it.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We were just chatting before this, just where we want to take this thing. And, Jen and I did a Instagram live before that was very well received. A lot of people got a tremendous amount of value with that, because there's conversations that not a lot of people are having that some people would call woo-woo, and some people would probably just have a little episode about and just question, what the heck we're talking about. But, Jen and I, we have prided ourselves over the years in letting go of our attachment to this 3D world and how we think it is, how we think it should be, and we're gripping the wheel and trying to control everything. We've both had experiences in our businesses, especially where when we let go of the wheel and we started trusting ourselves and trusting our intuition, business took off more and more and more. And Jen is going to share some of that with us today. So Jen, let's just dive in. We are going to talk about intuition today. Take us a little bit back on your journey and just your awakening, journey, and just how you view intuition today. Let's go there.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
We'll go right into it.
I love it. Let's dive in with all the fun stories, the magical woo-woo stories. So I would say I have had a connection to the spirit world from a very young age. I remember as a child seeing beings and seeing things in the 3D world that no one else was seeing, and having knowings where it was like, I don't know how I know that, and hearing stories from my parents of, we don't know how she knew that, but she just knew that. And I remember I was an only child growing up, so I was very imaginative, but I remember playing with fairies in my backyard. And now in my adulthood, I'm like, I was really playing with fairies. I thought it was my imagination, but it wasn't.
And let me say something with that too.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever talked about that. There was moments in my childhood to where there was one specific moment where I labeled it as a dream, but I knew it wasn't a dream. It just kind of scared me. So I started kind of seeing it as a dream. And I would think about it like year after year after year after year after year. And then here in the last couple of years, I really had this come to fruition moment to where I realized that somebody that I'm working with now as a mentor of mine was actually connecting with me long ago. Yeah. And he appeared in the waking life, if you will. But it really was, it was like, I knew it wasn't a dream, but I had no other way to describe it because it was so odd and interesting and all the while the same thing. But I was sitting on my kitchen floor, and I was I don't know, I was probably 3, 4, something like that, and this figure just kind of walked by me. And then my dad came by just a little bit after that, and he was just like, dude, or I asked him, I said, did you see that or something like that? And he was just kind of like shook his head. And I just knew, I was like, he didn't see that. And I just knew right away. And it was just like, it stuck with me. But then, like I
Wow.
said, in my mind, to try to grasp it and to cope with it, I turned it into, oh, it was a dream. But it
Mhm.
literally is like, if it was a dream, it wouldn't have stuck with, it was just like, it was just a dream, whatever. It's a weird dream. I mean, it's not like the weirdest dream I've had. I've had a lot weirder dreams than that. But it really stuck with me. And like I said, I just had this sense. It came full circle when I started working with my mentor, Don Javier,
Yeah.
recently, that it was his energy, it was his presence, it was him to a T. And, that sounds crazy and, wild and whatever, but we're living in a world to where we are so fixated on seeing life as we want it to be, as certain, and it's safe and it's controlled and it's figured out. And it's been designed that way long ago. And I'll do a future episode on that. I was actually watching a video the other day about the names of the months and how there should be 13 months, 28 days per month. But, there's this Gregorian calendar where this guy and this, team of people basically created this calendar to start to train us to think in a certain way and to look at life in a certain way to be able to control us a little bit more. So interesting stuff. I know we won't go down that rabbit hole a bit, but I
Oh
have
my
stories like that too.
goodness.
So I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And I'm sure other listeners
Oh,
are as well.
yeah, it's so cool. I have a similar story about Don Javier as well, because I started working with him over a year ago. And he actually came to me in meditation. And I was at a park and I was sitting on a park bench, and it was like a dream. When you're in a deep meditative state and you have these visions and it feels like you're dreaming, but you're awake
Yeah.
still.
Yep. That was it.
So I'm on this park bench, and this man comes and sits next to me, and he turns to me and he says, "Can I help you with your son?" And I knew he was talking about my oldest son. And like, I felt my ego respond of like, oh, this is scary. I don't know who this person is. I better say no. And then I felt my higher self respond and say, well, let's just ask him if it's for my son's highest good. So I said, well, is it for his highest good? And the man said, yes. And then I asked, if I want you to leave and I ask you to leave, will you leave? And he said, yes. And then I said, okay, you can help him. And so he actually started working with my son first. And then I found out in hindsight, when I started working with him, that was him who visited me on that park bench
Wow.
and began connecting.
Woo. I'm
And it's,
getting so much chills right now.
I know, and it's just so fascinating. I'm like, we could talk for hours about this, because like you said, we get so into the 3D world and it's so mesmerizing, like everything we're experiencing by our physical senses. But when you can sort of, I don't want to say detach, because you're still tuned in and tapped into the physical, but when you can begin to maybe tap in more to the non-physical, you begin to see all these nuances and synchronicities. And I always just come back to the word magic of the universe. And you get to experience your multidimensionality and the relationships that you're developing with people at a soul level and the non-physical. And it's like you just open up the pathway and doorway to so much more richness in your life. And that's why I get so excited about these conversations, so we can show people proof of what's possible for them to experience too, because we all are intuitive beings.
Yeah.
We all have access to this,
Yeah.
but we turn it off.
Yeah. And we'll, and I do want to, cause we could go deep with this, and I do want to ground it in business a little bit, but I will say too,
Yeah.
the reason I was getting, or one of the reasons I was getting so many chills when you were sharing that about your son and Don Javier, is because Jen actually reached out for Don Javier's number, or his wife's Mandy's number, and I gave it to her, and she started working with Don Javier within a very short amount of time.
Right.
And he has months and months, or not months, years and years and years of a waiting list. And Jen was like, I'm working with him. And you even told me that there was things about your son that you were working on him with. Yeah. So I don't think you would have got in straight away if there wasn't already some connection there in some more sense that you guys have already been working together in some capacity. So,
oh yeah, it happened so fast. Within
Yeah.
weeks, I reached out, and within weeks, I was on a phone with him.
Yeah, wild.
I know, wild. So let's go back to me playing with fairies.
Okay. Yeah. Let's circle back. Yeah.
Let's circle back. But I would say as a child, I was scared of what I was witnessing and seeing. And I also identified it as being different. Like I'm the weird kid, and I didn't want to be the weird kid. I really wanted to fit in with my peers and be liked and be one of the cool kids. And so I turned all that stuff off. It was like, it's not socially acceptable, and it's also kind of scary. So fast forward to I'm 21 and I'm in college. I go to school in Orange County, and then I had a boyfriend at the time who lived down in San Diego. So Thursday night, my classes are over. I got the 3-day weekend schedule set up, and I'm driving down the 5 freeway at night to go spend the weekend in San Diego with him and come back. So this is just my routine. Every week I'm doing this. And one Thursday night, I'm driving in the fast lane, probably going 80, 90 miles an hour. It's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And I have a thought in my head that says, slow down and pull over.
More chills.
And I'm like, this is weird. Yeah, I love when the chills arrive, because that lets you know spirit's in the room, right?
Yep.
Even for everybody listening on the podcast, like pay attention to your physical response to that, because that's your intuition already communicating with you. So I just had this reaction of like, that's a weird thought to have. Didn't really pay much attention to it. Heard it again. Slow down and pull over. And at this point, I'm like, okay, where is that coming from? Why am I thinking that? It's just so random. And again, I'm not making any changes because I just want to hurry up and get to San Diego. And it doesn't make any sense to slow down and pull over. And then I heard it a third time. And the third time I heard it, it felt like it was yelling at me. Like I received it almost as if somebody was in the passenger seat yelling at me, Jen, slow down and move over. It's like, I'm just going to do it. So I take my foot off the gas and I start veering over into the slow lane. I'm checking my mirrors, and I see in my rearview mirror headlights darting back and forth in the freeway behind me. And then I have a more conscious thought of like, oh my gosh, somebody's racing down the freeway. And I'm kind of, annoyed by that. Like, oh, that's so not safe. Why do people do that? Whatever. Don't really think much of it. They come whipping past me and they cause the most horrific crash that I've ever seen in real life. And my heart races even still to this day, every time I tell this story almost 20 years later. And I saw cars stopped in the middle of the freeway. I saw cars upside down. I'm driving through glass and car parts. I'm slammed on my brakes and I'm swerving. And I drive past one of the cars that was racing, and his car's crunched like an accordion right on the center divider where I would have been driving in the fast lane.
Wow.
And I thought, there's no way whoever was in that car survived. And there's probably more people that lost their lives that night. And I called 911, and I felt like the operator was so calm and she wasn't understanding what I had just witnessed. I'm like, you don't get it. You need to send people right away. I'm like yelling at her. She's like, can you just pull over somewhere well lit and safe and just relax and calm down? It's probably best if you give yourself some time before you get back on the road. And so I listened to her and found a gas station. And it was in that moment, my whole body trembling, that I realized something talked to me and saved me.
Ooh.
Something told me to get out of the way. And that experience changed my life, because I thought, oh my gosh, there really is something going on in the non-physical. There really is a spiritual world out there. There really is an unseen world. And I'm like, I want to tap into that. If it just talked to me now, can I get it to talk to me again? And what else can I learn from it? And what else can I receive from it? And then that just set off the journey. But then life sometimes gets in the way, right? And I was starting a corporate career, and then I got married and I had kids, and now I'm building this online business. And it wasn't really until the pandemic that I started to hardcore get back into tapping into my intuition. Because up until that point, it was sort of this fun parlor trick of like, yeah, let's pull out some cards and let's do some readings. And it was a secret that only close friends and family members knew about me. And so it's been a whole new world over the last couple of years, standing out and saying, I'm psychic. I'm an intuitive business coach, and this is how I lead my life. And do you want to come on this journey with me?
Yeah.
And you've been such an instrumental support system for me, and the bravery it took and the courage it took to stand in my truth and make that change in my life. And so much beauty has come as a result of that.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And it's been very, the only word is beautiful to see you blossom and to step into this and own this, because it was something, like you said, it's I would say to most people, even on this planet, it's like to have these conversations, people could really look at you odd, and we don't want to be looked at odd, and we don't want to be shunned and, have people judging us and all that. But in order to honor what's really transpiring with us and around us, and to help others to open up to their intuition and their sense even more, it's like somebody's got to speak about it.
Yeah.
And back to the almost the close call, that reminds me of a moment too, where, there's so many moments like this. Literally, if we were all to just kind of pause and to take a look at our life, we would be able to say that was intuition, that was intuition, that was intuition. When you were talking about that, I had this vision, this memory where a friend and we just got done at a baseball game. We got back late. We were going to this party. And so I was driving my truck, and I was driving fast. I was driving probably 60 on gravel, which isn't crazy. But it's it's pushing a little bit. And this road that I've been on hundreds of times. And for whatever reason, that day they had laid down new gravel, and we lost control, like hit that new gravel, and we were loose. And right away, I just knew if I hit my brakes and try to do anything, if I do anything other than surrender, it's not going to end well. We're flipping, we're rolling, we're doing all this thing. And so we're sitting there swaying for what seemed like a year, back and forth. The tail end was loose. And finally I started heading on off the road, which I knew at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to hit the brakes because there's no more sliding. We're heading off the road. And it really was, I really just know, I just had this vision. If I hit the brakes right now, it's over, lights out. And I trusted that in that split second of a moment. And we got really close too. Like, we went off the road, and there was this culvert there, and we were probably, I don't know, a foot away from that culvert. If we would have hit that culvert, we would have, flew out of the car. Probably, but I don't even think either one of us were wearing seatbelts. We were too cool for that. That was before the whole click it before your ticket, or click it or ticket movement.
Yes.
But there's so many moments like that. If we really look, you'll hear moms a lot that's just like, I just knew my kid was about to fall or something like that. And they just had this gut instinct, and it's not necessarily an instinct. It could be, but there was some knowing, some nudge that allowed them to look at that moment to help their kids. I mean, it's everywhere when we look.
Yeah, it really is. And when you start paying attention to it and having gratitude for it, and almost like a playful excitement about it, you begin to experience more and more of it.
Yeah.
What you focus on grows.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, and you've done an amazing job of taking this and helping entrepreneurs and business owners to utilize this gift for their businesses. And, Jen and I, yet again, we've been hanging around. We're both coaches for James Wedmore inside his Business by Design program for like 2 years now, I believe. So we've been,
oh my goodness,
been hanging around for a couple years.
While, yeah.
I know. And Jen, when we first met, she was doing, kind of like, she was coaching people on social media and marketing and showing people how to do certain things in their business. And us coaches behind the scenes, we saw Jen's gift at a live event. I knew all the girls were just kind of geeking out on the readings you guys were doing and all that. And they were just blown away. And so we knew that you had this gift inside you that you weren't really stepping into and honoring. And I think all of us have our own unique gifts. I won't say I think I know. And sometimes it's the scariest things just to own it. And for me, it was like really opening my heart and being completely vulnerable and sharing with my heart and leading with my heart, because yes, people can see me as fun and, got a good personality or whatever. But for me to really open my heart and bare my heart and be vulnerable like that, it was scary as hell for me. And the more I open my heart, the more I can connect with people. And that's all I've ever wanted. Right. So it's just like our greatest gifts are usually the thing that's keeping us back from, from the life that we want too. But with that being said, you went from this place of, just kind of, for lack of a better way to say it, you're struggling a little bit with your business. And then you said here, just before this call, that you 5X'd, 5 times your revenue in a very short amount of time. And that was due to, you honoring the work for yourself and also starting to teach others to do what you do. So speak into that a little bit. What was kind of the defining moment in your business, and how did that transpire, and what really opened up for you when you started trusting your intuition?
Yeah, great question. So I was in digital marketing in a corporate standpoint for years, probably, a little over a decade or so, and had figured out the system, was raised to believe that if you work hard and you get good grades, then you'll get the scholarship to college and you'll get into that good school. And so I did that. And then that happened. And then it was like, well, if you do really well in college and you do your internships and all this and this, then you're going to get a good job and make good money. It was like, well, that wasn't so true. I didn't start off making good money, but I paid my dues and I was climbing the corporate ladder. I'm like doing all these things that I had been taught my whole life. And I was working for Fortune 500 companies and building digital marketing and social media departments from the ground up, and was really successful. And I started working for a tech startup in LA. And I mean, this was my dream job on paper. This was the job that I'd been working for 10 years to get. And I had the corner office and the title and the big paycheck and the bonus potential. And I was building my own team. It was just all this goodness. And then I became pregnant with my second child. And I didn't realize it at the time, but with both of my pregnancies, I had pregnancy-induced anxiety. I didn't even know it until like hindsight. I learned that I was suffering from that. So I was constantly worried, constantly anxious, very highly emotional just while I was pregnant. And I ended up having my first panic attack at work. And I remember being on the bathroom floor, crying, afraid that I couldn't breathe, afraid that something was happening to my baby. Like, it was chaos. And I pulled myself together and I walked back into the office, and it was this out of body experience of, I'm just going to take everything personal with me. I'm going to clear out my computer. I'm going to make sure they have their key fob, because I don't think I'm ever coming back. And I walked out, and I haven't been back into a corporate office since then. And that was when I was pregnant. So that was like 2015, early 2016. So then I'm like, well, I know digital marketing. I'll just create a digital marketing business. I'll just run it, my own agency. And I had some success with that. But really what I did was I had created, instead of one boss, 10 different bosses and just, recreated what I left corporate to avoid. And I'm like, well, this isn't the thing. What if I teach people social media and web development and email marketing? Like, yeah, I could do that. And that's when I got introduced to James and started getting into this whole coaching world. But it was still a struggle. And I kind of just hit every year when it came tax time, it was like 40K, maybe 45K. I think my best year I had like 60K, but it was just sort of that same thing. And I'm like, what is missing? Why can't I get to this 6-figure mark? Like, I'm nowhere near what I left corporate for. And, I had to have some difficult conversations with my husband about, okay, when are we going to give up on this dream of yours, And I was constantly pivoting, like, maybe if I offer this, or maybe if I do this. And then the pandemic happened. And that's when things really started to change, because I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old who were now home with me all the time. Schools were closed. I was doing kindergarten homeschooling for my 5-year-old. I'm like, how in the world am I supposed to grow my business? And it was actually devastating to me, because I felt like the rug had been pulled underneath me. And now all of a sudden, this is my life. And it wasn't necessarily a life that I desired or had asked for. And I had a breakdown. And I remember crying again on the bathroom floor. This is where all my pivotal moments happen. And I'm like, God, what am I supposed to do? I've been working so hard. I know that you want to use me. Like, what? And I heard, follow your intuition. I will guide you. Just do what I tell you and forget the rest. I'm like, all right. So then that was just my mission and my practice every day, tuning in. Okay, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it, source, move me. What can I do today to get closer to my goal? Yeah. And I started receiving messages, and then I acted on them. And some were pretty wild and crazy. All of them scared me. Most of them don't make sense. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. There was sometimes I'd hear something and I'd be in resistance and it would take me months before I would finally do it. But very quickly, I mean, within months of doing that, I started having consistent like 3K month, 4K month, 5K month, 6K month. I'm like, okay, I'm on to something. So this is 2020. And then 2021, in the first 8 days of 2021, I had made all of my 2020 revenue already. And I was like, okay, I'm really on to something here. And I just kept, I'm like, how far can I ride this? Right. So just get into it even deeper, even deeper. And last year we 5x'd, we were over 200,000. First 6-figure year was a multiple 6-figure year. And now I'm like, okay, I've got to show everybody how to do this. I've been integrating this for the last couple of years. And so where do we go next? But what took me there was making the decision of saying, this is my journey. I'm using my intuition to grow my business, and I'm going to show you the behind the scenes of how I'm doing that and what I'm doing that. And then people started paying attention where they weren't really paying attention before. And so many people have just been on this journey kind of watching me. And now they're like, okay, I'm ready to take that next step too. And that's what's been able to quantum leap this business, is to be more vulnerable and open-hearted and pull back the curtain of, this is everything that's happening for me. And I work with other online entrepreneurs just like you do. And so it's really interesting, I think, for them to see the inner workings of the business and to be a part of that mission and that growth alongside of you. And when you can get people believing in something as strongly as you do, that's what leads to that quantum manifestation in that business you're so desiring.
That's very cool. And I remember your conversation. We had a conversation when you really went all in on this, and you even said, it's, because working with James, we have so many different options and launch plans, and we've learned so much from him that sometimes we do look at our mentors and it's almost like we give our power away, and it's like, okay, this plan worked for them, I got to just follow exactly what they did, but we don't take into account they did this at a different time. They have a different personality. They have different skill sets. They have different, discipline and habits and, whatever. So it's a completely, it's a model for you to model. It's not for a model for you to completely blindly walk into. And you said, you're like, I'm completely using my intuition on this. It's like, I'm not following a launch plan. I'm using my intuition. And I just knew right away. I was like, she's going to freaking blow this thing up. Like it's on for her, because two things. One is, I know the power of intuition. And two, you had this conviction when you said it. It was just like, I already know this is working out. It's already done. All I got to do is follow the signs. It's already there. And that's what I'm doing. And I felt that for you. So that was a beautiful moment to be able to see that. And then to see you now after, going through that and honoring that. And now you get to show other people what's possible for that as well. So, but let's break into this a little bit. Let's get in the weeds and the nuances a little bit. How do you interpret, or how do you let's say articulate what intuition really is? And let's just break into it a bit.
Yes. So I have received this definition from my light team. So light team is the name that they've given me, but your light team is essentially a group of non-physical beings that support you here in the physical. So you have your higher self, which is you, your soul, that's existing in other multi-dimensions, communicating with you and sending you energy constantly. You have a spirit guide, you have ancestors, angels, archangels, you have ascended masters. If we really want to get super woo, you've got galactic teams. So these are star seeds. So people that identify or are curious about different star seed communities, right? Arcturian, Palladian. Have you heard of these?
Mm-hmm.
So you can be working with Palladians, and maybe you are a starseed. If you're into this work, I always say, if you're into this work and this is your jam, you're probably a starseed, and you came here with a mission and work to do on the planet Earth that's supporting all of the universe.
Yeah. And that's one reason that you feel so connected to other people. It's just like you meet somebody and you're just like, this is my soul sister, my soul brother, or whatever. It's just like, there's chances are you've connected before. right?
Oh, 100%. You've shared lives before. You likely have contracts with them and all that. And so this is your light team, and they're in communication with you. And what my light team has said is intuition is the process in which you receive and translate energy.
Mm.
And really, your intuition is not that much different than your eyesight or your hearing, because really what's happening is sound is energetic waves that your ears pick up, and then they interpret that sound wave and turn it into a sound that you hear, you know, high pitch, low pitch. Is there a melody to it? Is it loud? Is it a whisper? You know, you're interpreting the energy. And same thing with your eyesight. Colors and light waves have different frequencies. It's all energy. And your eyes are doing that and translating it into vision and colors and what you're seeing in this physical world, right?
It's like when I've saw videos to where you'll have something that's vibrating under a table, or even hitting a hammer where there's like sand on the table, and the sand will take shape. So it's the same thing as these vibrations. It will start to take shape in forms of a vision as well. Because, I've mentioned this to you before. I've never, and I don't know, maybe I should just blindly do what you did and trust this, but I've never really felt connected auditorily to messages, but I know exactly. I have these like flashes, these senses. It's almost a vision, but it's not quite a vision, but it's also a feeling. So it's kind of like maybe I'm using two modalities there, but I don't often get anything that's just like crystal clear to me. It's like, I heard that type of deal. And even if I did, sometimes I probably talked myself out of it so many times where I'm like, I don't know. That's like, okay, we're going to talk to you in a different way. It's like, we'll start doing some sign language to you if you're going to act like you can't hear us. But yeah, that's super interesting. Yes. Thank you for breaking that down. Keep going. Keep telling us more.
Yeah. So what you're describing is the different clairs.
Yeah.
So these are just the different ways that your intuition receives energy and translates it. And you have your 5 physical senses, and then you have your 5 intuitive senses, which we call your clairs. So I'm mostly clairvoyant. So I see visions. Mm-hmm. When I'm reading somebody, I will close my eyes and I just start seeing stuff. And then I'm telling you what I'm seeing, and we interpret it together. We have clairaudient, where it's like, yeah, I hear something, these very specific thoughts in my head, and it's not my logical ego thinking brain. And you begin to start telling the difference, similar to when I was driving the car. You know, that was obviously not a thought. It felt different and all of that. And then you have, we don't need to go through all the clairs, but you've got all these different clairs that are associated also with your physical senses. But the energy that you're picking up is all around you. And also, your higher self and your light team are sending you energy and communicating with you via energy. And then your intuition, that intuitive process, is translating that into something meaningful for you. And everybody's intuitive, and you're using your intuition all the time, whether or not you realize it, but it becomes incredibly powerful when you use it with intention.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I remember when I really started geeking out on my intuition is I was in a weird place in my life. And I was just, one day I was down here, jumping around on the trampoline, and I was just I felt so conflicted and torn and disconnected and just wasn't lit on fire like I usually was. And like the last couple of days, my eyes kept darting to this book. And I hadn't looked at it like in months or anything like that. I haven't read it in years, probably like 7 years. And it just caught my eye one day, and I didn't think much of it. And then the next day I was just kind of like really, just trying to let go and trying, I was letting go, and my eyes just darted to it again. And I don't wait around for sometimes people are like, I see things in 3s. For me, it's 2, because then I'll go. I see it twice, I'm going to move on it. And so I picked up the book, and there was an exercise, and I opened the book, just a random page, and there was an exercise in that book that was exactly what I needed to let go of in that time. And there was a belief that was, very prevalent to me that I wasn't quite seeing, and that questions in the book, and just going through the process, it was exactly what I needed. And I heard, my friend Drew Canoli that says that as well. It's like, if ever I need an answer, I'm just going to go and pick up a book, and it's going to be there. It's just like, that's how I work. Right.
I love that.
He's trained himself to do that. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful example of listening to your intuition, because it's really easy to dismiss that, and that's the difference between leading an intuitive lifestyle and not. It's just simply paying attention and having awareness of the messages that are already present that you've been dismissing, are not really giving much attention or credence to. But it's like, you could have easily just said, oh, that has no significant meaning to me, but you made the decision. Now I'm being guided and led in this moment, and I'm going to be curious about where it's going to take me. It's always going to lead you into the unknown. Your logical mind's always going to step in and be like, don't pay attention to that. Because your logical ego mind just wants you to stay the same and in your comfort zone. And, it's more comfortable with the devil you do know than the devil you don't. Right. And so your intuition is always going to invite you into something that doesn't make sense, and you can't see the path of where it's going to actually take you. It's so uncertain. But when you can have a playfulness around it,
that's what I was going to say too. Yeah.
So much starts to shift, because it's like, well, why not? Why not go pick up that book and just see if I find something that's really resonating with me and helpful for me in this moment? Or why not just go over here instead of over here? Why not just launch this offer and kind of see what happens? Then we can start to bring it into business. And then your business gets to be so much more joyful. I think that's the biggest thing that shifted for me. And I tell people, like, one of the biggest things that I learned in this journey is that my business became a form of self-care. Whereas before, when I was struggling to grow it, it was like something that I had to control and master. It was like an arch nemesis. And I just had to figure it out. I had to figure out the chess moves, and I had to be able to beat it. I had to win it, And so the energy of the business was so blocked and restricted. It's like, no wonder why abundance and money wasn't flowing through it. But when I changed the perception of it, and it was like, man, this is my self-care. This is my time just for me, away from the kids and the roles and responsibilities of motherhood and being a wife and taking care of a household and all of these things. And I could just have this special time where I could be the creator, and I could tap into my divine mission and stretch myself to new levels of expressing that publicly. And I can get into like really deep work with people and begin to witness transformation in their lives. And it's like, it wasn't even about the money anymore. It was just, how can this lead me back to myself? And how can I just allow this to be the fun thing that I get to do for myself, rather than this thing that I've got to conquer and win? And that big shift for me through this intuitive journey was huge, because now all of a sudden I'm open, I'm expanded, I'm having fun, like all of the reasons why we start our businesses anyways, because we think it's going to be a lot more fun than doing whatever we were doing before. But then we don't let it be fun. So let it be fun.
Yep. And it is, it's like, there's this conversation around ego. And for a while I was like, I just need to eradicate my ego, but no, your ego is actually here, and it can guide you. It could partner with you. Without an ego, we're all consciousness. We're literally just floating around. We have no poignantness. However, if you let the ego control the show, and if you do get into control, then that's going to block the flow of things. And I can remember distinctly as well, just how much it was, just how scary it was to let go and surrender and trust off the start. I had to have a lot of courage, because when I started trusting my intuition, I was in debt. I was, frustrated. Business was not working well, and I started letting go. But it was so scary, because it's like, what if this doesn't work? What if I'm wasting my time? What if I'm just going down some dead end road? And it's just like, look, buddy, you're going down a dead end road right now. Let's open up and see if there is this support system that you sense and you already know. And I know a lot of us, having this conversation, it's like, I have the sense, this knowing that there's something else, there's something supporting me, but you don't fully allow and just be open to the signs and allow yourself to trust it. But when you do, it can be exciting. It can be fun. It can be lucrative. It can be expansive, and all the things in between. But it is going to take a lot of courage and a lot of surrender as well. And the ego is going to fight you like hell. It's going to.
Yes. And we talk about that so much inside my program, Divine Business Blueprint, because we have a whole module that's just dedicated to what's the difference between intuition and ego, and how do you experience both in your life. And it isn't about, okay, we need to completely get rid of the ego, because the ego is really supposed to be a servant to the intuition. But what we do is we make the ego the master instead of the higher self. And so how do we create a relationship with the ego that's coming from a place of love and appreciation and gratitude for it, that encourages the ego to be a more receptive partner of your journey?
Yeah.
And that's also what this work will do, because when you're tuned into your higher self and you're setting that intention of tapping into your inner guidance and your inner knowing, it's always going to point out to you your truth from a place of love and shine the light on, this is all of the lies that you're telling yourself that are coming from fear. Because sometimes we're so close and in our stuff, we don't even see it or realize it. But your intuition's going to tell you, like, here's this belief that's hanging out over here still. Are you paying attention to that? Are you being the observer of that? And then when you have that awareness is everything, right? And then you can be like, okay, well, ego, I understand that you're afraid of this because of X, Y, and Z, this experience we had, or something somebody told us when we were a child, or whatever it might be. But I just want to let you know you're safe. This is safe. Trust me. What do you need from me to get on board with this? And then we start developing a really healthy relationship with the ego.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And here recently, I would say, 6-8 months ago, I really got, I don't know, like life got hard. And I know that's an interpretation, that's a label, but I'm going to use that word just to express myself. It got hard. It got difficult. And I really lost sight of all of this that we're talking about. And I went from a place of like literally for like a year, I would see 111, 111, 111, 111 is 1111 or it's 111 everywhere, like in anything. And I mean, it's like daily I would see that. And I would say for like 3 months, I didn't see it once. And then I did clearing and I released and I let go and I got back to myself and I opened my heart more. And I let go of what I would say, is called self-importance. I was making everything about me and why is this way? And it just really getting into kind of a pity party without even knowing it. And I teach people how to steer clear of that. But obviously, you got to take your own medicine as well sometimes. And it really was the moment that I just, really let go again and was consciously letting go and trusting, all of a sudden 111 just showed back up and I literally see it every single day again. But it's just wild that I was so fixated on my problems, my struggles, and, why isn't this happening this way? And why did they do that? And why did they say this? Everything. I was so caught in my self-importance that I was unwilling and unable to see all the goodness around me and all the messages and the data and the signs and the support that is present at every single moment. I was oblivious to it, but I had to consciously open back up to that. And when I did, things started taking off again.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? What supported you in having that awareness of like, oh my goodness, I'm in my stuff right now. I've been in my stuff for a while. How'd you figure that out?
2 things. I'm getting chills. This is always a good sign. 2 things is, one is the pain. I mean, I really kind of got to a point where I was like, I was over it. And I think that, and it wasn't like a rock bottom moment, because I've had those and those freaking suck, but it was like, okay, this sucks. I'm over this. Because, I still have neuro pathways, I'm sure in my brain about, having depression back in like 2014 and, struggles that I used to face. So there's still that, grooves in my brain there. And I felt like I was getting in this rut, and it was just the self-awareness of like, this does not feel good. This doesn't feel good. I felt good for a long time, and I'm choosing to not feel good now. So what do I need to choose to choose again? And also support. I reached out to Mandy and just chatted with her a little bit, and she helped me to see some things that I wasn't seeing. And that brings up something I wanted to share too, just to make sure we get this across in our time together, is Jen and I, we decided to trade a call because, like I said, in BBD, I actually wasn't hanging out with the girls when they were geeking out about Jen's readings and stuff like that. I was like, oh shit, I should have hung out with them. Like, I should have went and did that, because I totally geek out on that work. But it was like, let's trade a call. I did a messaging call for Jen. I helped her to find more synergy in her message and to really identify what's the main themes in her message and put a unique method together. And she helped me to connect with my light team. And I had just got done with my first launch of Heart Center Selling Mastery. I had phenomenal results. I was on fire. But as soon as that got over, I felt like, okay, now I've got to push. Now I've got to go. Now I've got to hustle. Like I just built this thing and now I've got to make sure it takes off. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. And on the call, and I even knew as soon as I got on the call, I was like, Jen's going to sense my energy. Like there's no hiding it today. And she, picked up on my energy, and she, in tuning into my light team, the whole message of the whole entire call was, why in the hell are you working so hard? It's already done. Trust it. Just be open. Why are you doing this? And it really was, it was so life-changing to me. And from my light team as well, Jen got the message that, and I tell people this all the time, it's like your business is being built in the moments you're connecting with yourself and with your family or with your friends or just connecting. It's not built when you're thinking about it. It's not built at the moments in the computer. It's not built when you're doing the Facebook Lives. It's built when you're solid, when you're in your power, when you're in your heart, when you're connected. So she said the moments when you're creating is when you're looking at your baby boy in the eyes and when you're looking at your wife in the eyes. That was the message from the light team. I'm getting chills about that.
Oh, I got chills when you said that. Yeah.
And so that was so life-changing.
Powerful.
And I told my wife about that, and she could just sense there was this is a year and a half ago. I guess it was almost 2 years ago, I would say.
Yeah.
And I told her about it, and there were some things that she was, kind of wrestling with and uncertain about. And, she is sometimes open to the spiritual, sometimes not. But she said she was like, she wanted to call with Jen. She just had a feeling, right? She had a sense, she had intuition about it. And so she got on a call with Jen, probably, I don't know, 6 months after I did or so. And we had went through, okay, let me backtrack just a little bit. So Jen also, as soon, like one of the first things you said when you connected with my light team was, are you, I think your family's going to start growing a little. Are you guys pregnant? I was like, oh my God, we literally have told like 3 people, like my mom and her folks, like that was it. And you like, and that information came in. There's no coincidence. There's no denying that when that happens, right? Because people can try to, trick themselves into believing whatever they want, but there's no denying that. But we went through 2 miscarriages, and we were just in a lot of pain about what the next steps were. Were we going to try again? Because there for a while we couldn't even get pregnant naturally. So we did IVF and had our first baby boy, and then we got pregnant naturally twice. Which both of them didn't end in a successful delivery. And so we were just kind of at odds of what to do. And the message became clear through Jen's work and through helping my wife connect with the light team. What's funny though, is my wife didn't quite pick up on, on the messages. And after the call, she was telling me about it. And I was like, I literally just like, I was floored. She said, I'm connecting with, it seems like a relative, on your light team. And, he's trying to say this name. I think he's saying Jack. And it was like, you weren't like sold. It wasn't like it's Jack, right? It was like something like that. And my wife so badly wanted to hear from her grandma. So she was like, oh, you mean Jean, maybe like Jean? She tried to bridge the gap. And so she told me that after the call, and I was like, literally like, you mean Jax? And she said, oh my God, Jax. And that was the name we picked out for our baby boy that was going to be our next embryo. That was, we had already done IVF, so we had already had him. So it was like so clear that was the answer. And she didn't even ask you a question about, should I do this, that, the other thing, but it was so clear. And what was even crazier, literally 1-2 days later, maybe even that same day, I had just bought this whole big old box of like these big letters that you put together on these like flooring things for Bentley to play on. And he got 1 letter out of the box, and it was a K, and he took it upstairs, and I was like, oh, that's cool. He's got the K for Kiddoo. That's awesome. I go back downstairs, and he had 3 different letters out, and it was J, A, and then an ups. What was it? No, it was a letter 2 and then A and X, and the 2 was upside down. So it looked like a J. And I was literally like, this stuff, I'm getting chills now. I'm like, this stuff is for real. Like, this is just crazy. It's like, if you didn't get the sign the first time with the whole light team saying Jax, you're getting it now. Okay. Don't mess around with trying naturally. Again, go pick up Mr. Jax from the store that we already got him, in the freezer, and go get him going and And that little guy's here now. So, and we had a
Oh my
successful delivery.
gosh.
So
Oh,
it's
I
beautiful. It's
know.
all there
That
for
gives
us.
me full body chills. Oh my gosh. I know. And I think it's so cool. I love that you said, like, you guys received this information. And then when you were talking about it, you're like, oh, that's what this meant. Like, that came later. And then the universe was like, just to make sure you really are getting the message, let's solidify this for you. I'm going to show you it here too. And that's the beauty of this work. And that's what happens. It's like, if you don't get it right away, the universe is going to keep giving you signs until you start getting it. But the other thing that I do is I will tell people, set the intention of what it is that you want to receive before we hop on a coaching call. We start doing a reading. And this is what I guide students in my courses to do as well. You know, it always starts with intention. So what's the intention? And I think I messaged you too. And I was like, make sure that you and the wife set your intention before going into the call. Even if you want to hear from someone who's transitioned, like, start to talk to them now, let them know. And it's uncanny how that ends up playing out. And I think both of you had set the intention of, what do we do with this decision? You know, are we meant to grow our family? We're dealing with some heartache. Should we do this? Should we do that? And that was a big question mark for both of you. And so, of course, that's what our light teams delivered for us, was clarity on that. And intention is such a powerful component of all of this, because without that intention, you know, what is the universe delivering to you? And it's easier for you to see the signs and see the messages. So when you have that intention, it's easier for you to recognize those signs and those answers when they start arriving.
Yeah. Beautiful. And also in this conversation, I mean, you know, I'm kind of like, this went the way it wanted to, but I was like, I want to ground this in business a little bit so people can take some business stuff away. But the good news is that's what you teach people. And you're also doing a free training that we'll talk about in a minute that I think is going to be super helpful. But here's the thing. When people look at business, they're looking at, how do I build my list? How do I get more sales and leads? And what's the checklist? And what's the steps that I need to do? Which steps can be helpful sometimes. But if you're not trusting yourself, like I said earlier, you're literally walking a blind path. Because even if something worked for somebody else, chances it was months ago, if not years ago, that it worked for them. The internet world changes, you know, in the blink of an eye. And if you do not have the most powerful gift that has been given to us, and that's your heart and that's your intuition, and if you're not using that in your business, then it's probably not a lot of fun, and it's probably not real rewarding and expansive. And so Jen takes this gift that she has. Yes, she does one-to-one calls. I don't know if you still do those, but, you know, just like we were talking about, but you also train people how to use their intuition in a business setting as well, and also in life. So tell us a little bit about what you got coming down the pike. You got a free experience coming on. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, and I completely agree with everything that you're saying, because that was one of the hurdles for me, is like, I'm following all the strategies, I'm buying all the programs, I'm listening to all the gurus, and it worked for them. Why is it not working for me? Like, what's missing? And then what we do is we go down that shame spiral of like, well, it's something wrong's with me, you know, I'm broken and I need all this fixing, and I got to do my mindset work, and I got to do all this stuff. And I realized when I started to just have fun with my business and listen to my intuition, that a lot of that stuff just corrected itself on its own. Now, that's not to say we don't still need mindset work. That's not to say that there's always going to be inner work that needs to be done to continue to scale and up level. And we're going to always hit those plateaus. And then it's like, okay, what got me here, like James always says, is not going to get me there. And our intuition becomes the biggest tool in our toolbox to move us through that. And a lot of the reason why we aren't manifesting in our business what we desire is because we are doing strategies and implementing things that are actually not in alignment with our souls. They're actually not the unique way that we want to be doing it. They're actually not offers and marketing and sales strategies that are aligned with our unique gifts and our higher selves. So when I made that decision of, yeah, I know a lot about digital marketing. Yeah, I've been doing this successfully for years. So that makes sense. That's logical for me to do that. Once I was like, nope, I really need to pivot. And this is intuitive, soulful led businesses that I'm guiding people on. That's when I really started tuning into my unique gift, and the business took off. Yeah. So what are you denying yourself? This is a question for the listeners. Like, what aspect of yourself are you denying yourself because you think that there's a better way because someone else is telling you that, or you've seen that work for somebody else? Because that's your number one sign of like, oh, I got to reel it back in. And that's what this event is all about. So it's called Awaken Your Business. And we kick things off on April 13th. It's a 3-day live experience with me, all around waking up your truth, your unique gifts, the aligned offers that you want to be putting out into the world, so that you can also see your business awaken to more freedom, abundance, and all of the things that you're desiring in your lifestyle and your relationships. Because this work is founded in business, but when you start to get into it, you'll notice the ripple effect of it touches every aspect of your life.
Yeah, 100%. And without it, we do get, and this was me off the start, my entrepreneur journey was I got into a lot of learned helplessness. If the plan was not working, or if I was missing a step and I didn't have access to a mentor or somebody to really like fill it in, I'm stuck in a crack, then I'm left by my own. I did not develop the skill to trust myself and to navigate through that and to use my sense and my intuition inside of that plan. It was the plan and nothing else. And so that learned helplessness was very tricky for me early on. But without having your intuition, without trusting yourself, without feeling into things and sensing things. And I have the analogy that I use a lot of times where we are all like heat-seeking missiles, right? We're not sitting back at the harbor, getting ready to launch, saying, well, what if I miss? What if the boat moves? What if I don't make it there? It goes and it seeks information, feedback, and it course corrects as it goes. And so we can get caught up in the plans and the nuances and the step-by-steps. We can feel like, hey, look, give me a step-by-step to success and I'll be successful. There's still going to be some things that you've got to make a gut decision for yourself. And if you're unable to do that and to pull from higher resources, if you will, you're going to be struggling for a long time, like I was. So
yeah. And I love that metaphor. And I have such a great story that goes with that. And so that we can like ground all this storytelling into business. Cause I know that's one thing you're like, we can put this and apply it to business. Trust us. But as you were saying that, I had this memory of right when the pandemic happened. So I think it's probably like April or May, and I was in a mastermind. So in January of that year, I had made the biggest investment in my business ever. I went all in, like cleared out my business bank account and invested in this mastermind. And then the pandemic 2 months later happened. And it was like, oh, you know what? I won't cuss on your podcast, but that's what it was. That's what it was. And so I had launched a summit. I had grown my email list. We were doing fun things. And the next intuitive idea that I had was to create a workshop and invite the people, a paid workshop, and then invite the people from the workshop into private coaching with me. And so I intuitively felt like, and this is what I love to do, and this is what I teach inside Divine Business Blueprint, I love to intuitively connect to the heart of my soulmate clients and the people that I'm meant to serve. And I can tune into their energy and receive from them what it is that they need to hear and experience from me to trust their yes to join me in these programs. And when I was tuned in, I felt like, okay, they really need to have a workshop that's walking them through creating a plan so they can see the proof of what's possible for them. And then the natural transition for them would be like, yeah, I want you to help me implement this plan. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was creating. And my mentor at the time, who was running this mastermind, I shared all the details with her, and she was like, that's not going to work. Because my paid workshop was like $49, but at the time to work with me privately was like $1,500 or something, And she's like, people aren't going to make that jump. That's too big of a leap to go from, I just spent $49 with you. Now I'm going to spend $1,500 with you. And I was like, okay, maybe you're right. And I remember taking it back and I kind of thought about it some more. And whenever I was tuned into my intuition was like, no, this is it. Yes, just trust it. Just move, just go. And I said, I have 5 spots. And I had 11 people join me for my workshop. And I sold all 5 of those private coaching spots. And that was when I had like that first real big month in May or so of 2020. And I was like, okay, that was the big time where I was like, when I'm tuned into my intuition, I'm getting instruction, doesn't logically make sense, doesn't fit into, the strategy and the boxes and the step-by-steps and what tends to work for other people. And I just have to trust it. So, okay, let's go. What's the next thing, And then it became really exciting and really fun. And there have been times where I listened to my intuition and I did not get the results I was expecting or wanted. And in the past, that would wreck me. I would spend months and months and months feeling so defeated and in this pit of despair of like, this is never going to work. And I need to fix myself. I'm never going to understand how to be a CEO, And now when I don't get the results I want, I'm like, okay, what are you trying to have me experience so that you can move me and teach me the lesson and like clear whatever energy block I've got going on. And then I just tune in again and say, what is it that I'm truly feeling? What message am I receiving about this? And I had a pretty bad failed launch one time. And then the message for me on the other side of it was you had to go through that launch to find out where you were leaving yourself out of your business still. Still leaving the truth of who you are out of your business. And that was like, aha, breakthrough.
Yeah.
So when you're operating your business from that perspective, and it's one thing to know it, like it's one thing to hear it and know it. Yeah, if I'm either going to get, again, I keep using these Jamesisms, the result I wanted or the lesson that I needed, like I get that makes sense. But it's a totally different thing to embody it and become that CEO who's like, this is just a lesson. This doesn't mean anything about me.
Yep. And you never, you can never be so sure too. It's just like you said, you experienced that for a reason. It was possibly a lesson, but it could have been like, hey, look, we're going to take you over here just for a brief second, because if you get over to the right and we want to just take you to the left just for a minute, you might get on this path and just go, crazy down the wrong path. Like I had this intuitive hit one day. It was like, just turn here. And I did. I had an audible message and like you said, I felt it and I turned and like nothing happened. But I'm like, in the nothing happening, something happened, or I probably missed out on something. Or if I go somewhere else, I might have a weird thought that leads to something else. So it's still, even though nothing happened, something happened. Like it was still for my highest good and my highest benefit. So, so interesting. Yeah. So interesting. And so, let's tie this into business. Let's have this conversation about, yes, having business sense, yes, seeing what works for others, being able to model, but really trusting yourself. So, tell us again about the workshop, and I have a link for other people when they want to sign up for that to participate in that. So,
yeah, awesome. So,
what's the dates and all that goodness?
Well, we kick things off April 13th, and it's a 3-day event. So we meet on Zoom. I love to meet on Zoom because my intuition gets amped up a little bit more when I'm seeing you and I'm like physically in your energy as much as possible, even though this is a virtual event. So we'll meet on Zoom for 3 days, and each day I'll be walking you through my journey and my process of quantum manifesting and 5Xing my business in 1 year. And there's going to be a lot of guidance and journaling. I strongly believe that we all learn through experiential living and learning. And so I don't create slides. I don't create workbooks. I show up and I live channel for you. And then you're going to be in an experience where you're directed to answer questions as I go and channel write and free write and connect to your intuition with me for these 3 days. So you can experience your truth and walk away with that guidance and that insight of, here's my next move. Here's where I'm being directed and led. to your quantum manifestation and your quantum leap in your business. So we'll talk about the stages of awakening and how each stage of your soul expansion and awakening is correlated to each stage of your business expansion and the abundance that flows through your business, because there's a lot of connection there. And when you experience and witness that connection, that guides you even to, okay, well, here's the stage I'm in. So then the next step for me is this. So we're going to dive into all of that over the course of 3 days. And it's all in celebration of Doors to Divine Business Blueprint opening again, which I'm super, super excited about.
Oh, beautiful. And there's this, let's just say, let's tie this all together. And if you don't have space in your life, and I know Jen and I, we had a conversation about this, we both experienced this. And for me, it's something that I dip in and out of. I haven't tamed that dragon fully yet, even though I've done a tremendous job doing that. Is I used to work from a lot of time scarcity, and I needed things to happen fast, and I'm pushing and hustling and forcing and, and needing results and all this. And so if you are working from that premise as well, the universe must have space to fill that space. And if you are so busy in your mind and you're chattering and you're worried and you're struggling about everything and anything, and you're hustling and you're pushing and you're checking all the boxes and you're doing all the things, but you're freaking miserable inside, you need space. And you're like, I don't have intuition. Like it doesn't hit me. You need space. You need to be open. You need to open the doors for that. And so I would dare to say there's going to be people on here that said, yeah, I would love to, but I just don't have the time for that. You don't have the space. If you don't have the space for new things, how do you expect new things to come in? New results, new opportunities, new hits, new, feelings and emotions, new experiences. So I would push you and recommend hanging out with Jen for those 3 days. They're going to be so expansive and life-changing. And I have a link for Jen. I created a link that is adamkiddoo.com/awaken. And you can go there. And if you do go through this process and you like what Jen's doing, there's no secret. She just mentioned that, she has an opportunity to continue working with her. And if you do that, I'm going to throw in some bonuses for that as well, to where I'll do a one-to-one call with you and we'll geek out a little bit more on business and how I'm using intuition in my business as well. So
I love that.
Take Jen up on this golden opportunity to go through her free experience. If you do end up enrolling and working closer with her, I'd highly recommend it. If not, if it doesn't feel aligned, it is what it is. Either way, these are going to be probably the most expansive 3 days of this entire year for you. So,
yeah. And it's so cool too, because these events, you said it so perfectly, it creates the space necessary for what you're wanting to flow in. Yeah. And it's one of the universal laws, the law of the vacuum. And so the universe is designed to fill space. But if you're already full and your cup's full, then there isn't that space for the universe to fill it in with the new that you're asking for. So let Awaken Your Biz be the space for that. Because I hear time and time again from somebody who's like, I was on your call or I was on the session and I had this outstanding invoice and it got paid while I was on the session with you. Or there was something that was kind of lingering over here and that came through, or somebody was deciding whether or not they wanted to work with me. And I just got the email, yes, they want to work with me. Like I had a client that just Voxered me 2 days ago. She was exhausted. And she's like, I just decided I was going to take the whole afternoon off. And I laid on my couch and I binged watched Netflix and I didn't feel guilty about it. And when I went back to my computer, I had 2 new bookings that showed up while I was on the couch. I'm like, you made the space. Yeah. So let this make space, and then share with Adam and I what flows through over these 3 days for you while you make this space for yourself, because the rest is the work. This is the true work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, all right, you guys. Thank you, Jen, for being here and sharing your heart and your gifts. Yet again, I know it took a lot of courage and bravery to get to this point, and now you're on fire. Business is growing, things are well. So you're leading by example, and that's all we could ever ask for. So thank you for that, and all the listeners. Take Jen up on this golden opportunity to be present with her, spend some time with her, and allow her good energy to rub off on you and see what opens up for you, because there's more out there than we want to see sometimes, than that we are seeing and sensing from our limited perspective. And real quick, the conversation too on, universal laws. I mean, it's science, it's physics too. It's just like space hates a vacuum. And if you're so stuffed up and stressed about business and, you're so busy and you're not really delegating and outsourcing and being that high level CEO that Jen speaks about, then it's time to get some things out of your life that aren't working anymore, that aren't providing good experiences that are just taking up space. So let's freeze up some time, let's free up some energy, and let's put it in a good place so that way we can go out and help more people and change the world around us. So
amen to that.
yeah. Jen, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure connecting with you, and I'm a big supporter and a fan of yours, and you got my heart. So keep doing your thing, and thank you.
You have my heart too. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we were able to have this conversation. It's been great. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, you too. You too. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Adam Kiddoo podcast. If you would take a moment to subscribe and click the bell icon so that way you get notified when future episodes air. Now, here's the thing. If you are looking for the show notes, you can find a link to those below. If you're looking for the handles of the guests that I've been interviewing, things of that nature, you'll find that here. And if there's anything else that stood out to you in the episode, or if there's anything I can do for you, please leave a comment below, or for sure message me on Instagram if you'd like, as I'm always looking to hear what's working well for you and what caught your interest about the Adam Kiddoo podcast. So, time to go, time to change the world, time to help more people. Are you ready? Let's go do this thing. The world needs more leaders. So thanks again for listening to the Adam Kiddoo podcast.